Welcome to Powering Through Life, and I'm your host, Teresa Sims. Each week on Powering Through Life, my guest and I will discuss a special topic that is close to their heart. Together, we will explore the challenges they have faced in life and learn what strategies and tools they have used to power through their life. So welcome to Powering Through Life. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Powering Through Life. And I have the most incredible guest with me today. And I have Carole Bertuzzi Luciani. Did I say that correctly?
Pretty close. Yeah, you kind of angloed the Luciani, but that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Perfectly acceptable.
Okay. Carole Bertuzzi Luciani.
Yeah, well, that was really good.
Thank you. I practice. Carole is a self-described motivator, and everything she does as a speaker, YouTuber, and Canadian best-selling author of 3 books in the series, I Have a Story for You, Musings of the Motivator. Ooh, she also regularly posts upbeat and often entertaining posts on social media under hashtag amusing of the motivator. And I can attest to that. They are hilarious. Carole is an avid volunteer, both locally and globally, but sees her role as a mom to be the highest distinction ever. Carole, I agree with you. You are an amazing person, and welcome to Powering Through Life.
Thank you, Teresa. It's a pleasure to be sitting here looking at you right now. I wish we were in person because you know that we would hug one another.
Absolutely.
And we would probably speak up close and personal, and the spit would fly. And unfortunately, those days are gone for now. So thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And they are gone for now. And we have done the other part in the past earlier this year. And we had the best conversation. And that's why I just love chatting with you. And
last January.
Yeah, a long time ago already, it seems. So, but you know what, Carole? I love the topic that we're going to be discussing today. It's really relevant to the times that we're going through right now. And it's staying buoyant in turbulent times. Wow.
Yes.
Aren't we living in that right now anyway?
Absolutely.
So would you like to describe that, what your version of that is for me and the listeners?
Well, this whole COVID experience has been a very interesting ride for me. And it's like a ride at the X, only it's not the swings where it's nice and gentle or the merry-go-round. It's the tilt-a-whirl. And it seems that in being on this ride, our moods and our feelings change every day, and we feel a little discombobulated and out of whack and out of sorts. And if the ride were to pause, chances are we would step off and we wouldn't have solid footing. And that's what it's felt like for me since March 13th of this year. I've gone through personally a number of ebbs and flows in that 9-month period. And that's what got me thinking about the title of Staying Buoyant in Turbulent Times, because I typically go through life and I ride pretty high, and I like to keep things upbeat and smooth. And I believe that I am a natural born optimist, and that has helped me throughout my life. But what I've experienced in the past 9 months made me realize that if I am feeling some of these lows, what is the average person out there feeling? Like typically in January, I refer to myself as I flatline. I just kind of get bored and I look outside and I go, yeah, what am I going to do? And I lose interest. And I refer to that as flatlining. And it's always at that time I think, again, if I feel this way, what is average walker along the street feeling who doesn't typically ride high? And that was an interesting revelation for me. And that's what got me going on the Staying Buoyant.
Is there some significance to January, or is it just our Canadian winters?
Well, I think for me, because first of all, I feel as though I come to life in the spring. I am a spring baby, and my favorite month is May. January, historically in our family, was when you'd get through the Christmas hub, and I always had everything, all sorts of things going on. January would arrive, the kids would go back to school, my husband would go back to work, he was in education, and I didn't get bookings in January. They just didn't hold conferences. And that's when I would sit there, having had everything put away and the house clean, thinking, really? Really?
Now
This
what?
is it?
Yeah.
I need more in my life.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started.
So what did you do? I mean, what was the significance this year for you? I like, we haven't talked since January ourselves. Um, what when you were going through the initial stages of COVID, what made it such a challenge for you?
Well, it's interesting. The initial stages were not challenging. I was actually living a pretty good life and enjoying it. And I'll tell you why. I looked at it like, number one, we're all in this together. So there's no fear of missing out anywhere. We're in the same water. We're in different vessels, but we're in the same water. So I thought, okay, I'm a team player. I love the idea of a challenge and working with others. And that's how I looked at it, that, hey guys, we can do this. And immediately I decided that what my role could be to contribute to our team effort was, I'm going to, as you had mentioned, I'm going to post something every day that's upbeat, hopefully, inspiring, entertaining, and that's going to be my contribution. And if you remember early on, many people kicked in their own resource at that time. Some people were posting on social media, their favorite recipes, and they were sharing, and others got immediately into making and sewing masks for healthcare workers, frontline workers. And it just seemed that the caremongers amongst us really kicked into overdrive. So I felt as though I had a contribution to make, and I was totally prepared to see it through. And at the time, I signed up for a free online course, and it was the science of happiness.
Oh,
And I would take these online surveys and think, other than the one unchanging variable about the fact that I had lost a spouse, for the most part, I was a very happy person. I scored quite high naturally on all of the areas that they mentioned. So this course was 8 weeks. I was making the best of the situation, which is typically what I do. And I was feeling pretty good.
and then what happened?
Okay, so then
I know that was coming.
yeah, it's coming. But, well, a few things happened. First of all, unbeknownst to me, because I had a lot of time and the TV was on often, Cogeco, who is our local TV service provider, suddenly I was getting a free channel. And the free channel happened to be CNN. Well, it was new to me. And other than looking forward to the daily reports by Andrew Cuomo, Andrew's the governor, right? Yeah, like I looked forward to those.
Yeah.
But then I kind of got locked into it was background noise. And I got used to listening to it, and often the topic and the target was one that presses every button on my being, and I won't even mention his name. But, that's in the background. And then second week in June, of course, the unfortunate situations that erupted in the States over race, that really affected me. I was still just thinking about it. I get kind of worked up. And then I went on to a few, maybe months of learning more about the whole race situation. But then around the same time, I made a decision that, okay, I've posted 100 days in a row now. Surely they have to be sick of me. So I wrote a post and said, thank you very much for following. It's been fun. But 100 days, I'm done. Well, in not realizing it at the time, I relinquished my purpose.
Uh-oh.
You see, for 100 days in a row, I would wake up and I had a purpose. And I would ask myself, okay, what are you going to post? What are you going to create? What thought are you going to share? What visual are you going to use? How are you going to prepare the graphics? I had a reason. That was my contribution outside of myself. And I handed that over. And I didn't realize it immediately, but a few weeks later, in suddenly picking up my onion and peeling back the layers, I looked at it and thought, I'm dealing with a lot of shit right now. There's this, and there's this, and there's this. And what about my career? Am I going to speak again? Well, let's just throw that into the mix. And then typically, the past 2 years anyway, I go through a period in dealing with my husband's death that lasts about 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, my son's birthday, Father's Day, my husband's birthday, our anniversary, our annual trip to Sauble Beach, the heart attack. Okay, 6 weeks. And leading up to it this year, I thought, not this year. I'm going to ride that wave better. Well, once I started peeling back my COVID onion, it was like, let's throw it back into the mix. Well, by early August, I proclaimed that I was in a slump that I had never been in my life. Now, still functioning, still going out, still playing tennis, still doing things that I enjoy doing. But I'd lost my zip. I lost my purpose. And like a lot of other people, things just didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you'd hear people say, it doesn't matter. And it was true. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Well, unfortunately, my slump, well, no, I lost 2 friends in 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 2 very, very good friends. And then it was like, that's what I needed to kick myself in the ass saying, hey, this is not working for you. Your friend needs you right now. You have to reach out to your other. And that's, ironically, that's when I started my climb back. But, you know, that sunk me pretty low. And then what I've been doing ever since is working myself back. And right now, you asked me how I was doing, and I said a small F fine, but it's a pretty good fine. But considering everything else around, I didn't want to say, oh, I'm living my best life right now. No, I'm not living my best life, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And I'm back to posting. So there were a number of strategies that I employed for myself that helped me along the way. Certainly there are people out there that when they reach a slump, professional help is needed. It's just the nature. You know, we all have different skills and naturally are wired differently. And fortunately for me, I had the resources and I had the skills and I had the know-how, and I had the stick out my finger and point at myself and say, okay, time's up, get off your ass and do this. But certainly for other people, it's more serious than that. And they do have to reach out and seek professional advice and support.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's absolutely no shame in that.
Should I have taken more breaths there? Like I went on a certain.
Yeah. No, you're
I'm
good.
sorry.
You're good. I love the way, you know, you're always, you speak with such a passion and you have such a keen understanding. And I love that about you. And I also appreciate your humor involved in everything. And I know there's an element of humor in how you've been facing all of this stuff. And is that how you deal with grief, Carole? Because you've had
Um,
an awful lot of grief in the
well,
last little bit.
yeah, it's not how I deal with grief. It's how I deal with life. That is the only person I know. And often, when they dig deep on, let's say, comedians, and I do not consider myself a comedian, but they always say, well, we had a dark past and this happened. No, I only ever remember myself as this little girl that had these thoughts, that it wasn't until I shared them I would get into trouble for sharing them, because it would be a disruption to the class or whatever. But I've always approached life that way. And for a great part of my early life, I just kept them to myself, because when you're raised in a box of Italian Catholic strict upbringing, you bite half your tongue off most of the time, because you knew I was not raised in a family of, oh, Carole, let's hear what Carole has to say. Are you kidding? Never. So I would save it for outside of the home. And I remember when it really started, well, I got the strap in grade 3 because of it. But I remember being dragged to Italian wedding showers, and typically they were on a Sunday afternoon, and you're sitting around in a circle in someone's living room wearing a dress that you don't want to wear, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, if I have to sit through another 5 minutes. And that's when it started, that I would start to comment about the situation, much to my mother's dismay. You see, because my mother wanted me to be in my place. And the Italians have an expression, la bella figura. And most cultures have the same thing, but of course translated differently. And basically what it means, how will it appear? So I was raised by a mom that imposed on me, don't say that, Carole. Why do you draw attention to yourself like that? Carole, you're shedding a bad light on our family. Why can't you just be normal?
Oh my goodness. And I can understand that.
And I wasn't normal, Teresa. I
No,
wasn't.
no, none of us are, whatever that word normal means.
Yeah.
But mine isn't Italian, but it was same kind of upbringing, very strict European. Go somewhere, sit on your hands, do not fidget, don't say anything, just sit there like a statue. And
Yeah.
I got in trouble all the time because I was a fidgeter, and I pay attention to that now, is I can actually sit still for a very long period of time. Wonder
You
why
were
that is.
trained. You were trained well.
Yeah, but I can't sit on my hands anymore. But
And I can sit there quietly, but usually I'm stifling a grin or a laugh, because the thoughts don't stop.
yeah.
They're still in there swirling around going, oh my goodness, I wish I had an outlet to share this, because that's funny.
And it didn't happen. Yeah.
So getting back to your question, that isn't how I deal with grief specifically, but it certainly helped me
yes,
deal with grief.
perfect. So what did you do, Carole? I know I've seen your posts for years, and my favorite one was the Olympic one.
They're my no shame videos. Where, you know what, it's out there. I can't control it now. It's out there. And my mother's not here to see them.
That's good. But I know that you employ humor in a lot. You also have some really deep, interesting thoughts, and all of that goes into your talks and into how you present to people. I'm not even sure how to ask it, but can you help me out, Carole? You probably know what I'm thinking.
Well, I believe, see, when I speak, one of the things that I loved about speaking in front of an audience is I was able to immediately read them. I knew if I crossed the line. I knew if I offended them. I knew if I touched them in some way. So relax, Carole, don't speed over it. They're digesting this. I knew that if I tickled them, and that was the pleasure that I got in speaking in front of them. And as a speaker, I first of all studied how I was listening to people. For example, when you go to church, I believe that in going to church, there should be joy within those walls. That's what faith and religion should represent. And that's what I look for. And I would sit there at Mass and look around at the faces because of the structure of the church. And I would jab my husband and go, Joe, there's no joy in this room right now. And he'd go, shh. And you'd look around and faces would be in the 20 after 8 position, as I describe it. And I would think, okay, this priest doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that he has got to speak to them in such a way that they are engaged, that they are enthused by the words coming out of his mouth in his homily or the gospel or whatever. And I believe that as a speaker, I want to get that important message across, which, as you know, are very simple messages. They may go deep, but they're pretty simple. Mm-hmm. They're stuff that we know, but we've just forgotten. And what I like to do is I like to take that message and deliver it in such a way that it's palatable, that they, you know what? She used humor with that. And I got it, and I'm going to remember it. And I often use props, and it's a visual that someone goes, now I forget exactly what she said, but I'll never forget how she worked that balloon. Yeah. So that's how I have created my role as a speaker and a sharer of important messages, whether it be in my writing or my speaking, or what other avenue presents itself. And those thoughts are continual in my brain, and I speak kind of I see things and I'll see an image and I'll go, that reminds me of, and then I'll work it in. And that works for me. The key to being a successful speaker is that you find out what works for you. That I've never been trained as a speaker because I believe, well, no, not that I ever turned down the opportunity, but my father, who was a fan of Dale Carnegie, the first time he heard me speak, and I was 10 years in, he said, yeah, well, you're pretty good, but you should probably go to Dale Carnegie. And I'm thinking at that point, I don't need someone to say, Carole, you use your hands too much. Or you shouldn't, this is when you should do this. Oh, come on. I don't need any more rules in my brain. I don't want any rules. When I speak, you get me, whether you like it or not, whether it would ever win a speaker's competition or be approved by Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie or any other speaker organization. That's not what I aspire for. I aspire to be a natural speaker, delivering it in the most natural way for me.
And
the humor is natural for me.
Yeah, very true. I've seen you speak a couple times and I've been so entertained. And I know like the room that you were in both times was filled with women who were laughing and just connecting because they can relate to you, and you deliver in such a way that it's from the heart, from the soul, and just everyday topics, right?
But Teresa, when you're in a room like that with, first of all, it helps that it's all women. Let's be honest about that. But a group of women that are laughing out loud together. It's like being on the dance floor. everybody feels really good. And we all thrive on the energy. And I say we because me as the speaker, oh my goodness, yes, I love the energy that's being shared in the room right now. I'm just the impetus. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And waiting for the reaction. And for me, it gives me great pleasure, whether it be through a post, speaking, any of my stories, that it resonated with you and it made you feel good. To me, okay, I've done my job. That feels really, really good to me.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've connected with someone or a group of people that you're there to entertain. However, I've seen you connect with people, point blank during your talks. And if your props don't work, that's even funnier. It just, that's, yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
something didn't work last year. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember what.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was either.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I seem to remember umbrella or beach ball, but I don't remember. But
Yeah.
it was hilarious. The laughter stuck with me. The energy that you created in that room made everybody, like you say, elevate to a different level where they forgot what's been happening, what's going on. And that's, I think, what's so key about what you do. You make people forget, not
But
necessarily not deal with, but for a moment in time.
for a moment, and
Different.
Teresa, what people don't understand is, let's say my posts, number one, I'm doing it for me because I need the boost too.
Yeah.
And so when I throw it out there, I go, oh, you know what? That was fun doing that video on skipping. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. That's key because I like working inside out. So I don't ever want to be that person that only delivers for outside in. And hopefully this will make me feel better. No, it all starts here. So if you were to look back over some of the periods of my slump, the zip wasn't there. Like even the stuff that I was letting the politics get to me. I was just letting stuff get to me. So one of the things, the very first things I did to help myself, and I actually have a mask about it, but I often speak about, we have to be careful about the air that we breathe. And in my sessions, I would refer to it as brought to you by the letter B, because we go about our day and we talk to people and we listen to talk radio and we watch CNN. And what we don't realize is a lot of the air that we're breathing in is toxic. It's negative. It's just stuff that we don't need to hold on to. But what ends up happening is it just gets filed back here at the base of our brain. And unbeknownst to us, it has a heyday back there because it starts formulating some thought patterns. And before you know it, you hear yourself say things that somebody else, if they were paying attention, would go, Teresa, you sounded kind of negative there. And you don't realize it, but once you breathe it, you start to believe it, you behave it. And if you behave it often enough,
Absolutely.
they say 3 weeks, you become that negaholic. And once you become it, that's when we begin to breed it, that we have an effect on our kids, on our spouses, our partners, our friends. And before you know it, people behind your back are going, I don't like spending time with her.
Yeah.
She's a downer. She's always yapping and complaining about something. So the very first thing I did to help myself is I put my hand up to the negativity. That yes, I myself had to vent, and that was one area where I really missed Joe not being here. I had no one to vent to.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few good friends that have allowed me that, but you got to vent with a timeline. So if I had anything negative, get it out and then move on. I got rid of CNN. I didn't need that crap in my life. I just didn't need it. I stopped watching the news. I stopped following the numbers on Worldometer, the stats. I didn't need that. I figured let's localize it. If I can do my part in all of this, and one of the best phrases I've heard throughout all this is, you do you and I'll do me. And I knew for doing me, I was going to, for the first time in my life, follow the rules laid out. I figured that's the least I can do, because right now, healthcare workers, frontline workers, broadcasters, politicians, thankless job. They must go home at night and go, oh, please, Lord, let me call in sick tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to get on the bandwagon of complaining. And we're spending so much money, and Trudeau's doing this, and Ford's doing this. Stop. I'm going to do me. And hopefully, if enough of me's do themselves together, once again, together as a team, we could do some damage against this COVID. But right now, you know the situation we're in.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
get rid of negativity is key.
yeah, absolutely. You know, a friend of mine used to work for a prominent TV station, and she has said, she used to, and she said that what the media creates is what she calls the FUD factor: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I totally agree with that. It's all, a lot of it is sensationalized to try to get our attention, but it's what we do with it. And I'm like you, since, you know, for 13 years since my car accident, I don't watch the news. I know what's going on. I do, like you, I do my part. I try to live as best I can according to what I should follow. So after my accident, it was kind of, because there's post-traumatic stress elements involved in my life, it was recommended that, you know, you don't pay attention to all those things. You do know what's going on in the world, but I'm not going to allow the negativity, like you say, to affect me, my life, and those around me. We have control over what we choose to accept, what we choose not to accept. And I choose to not accept the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that the media is producing. So as long as we know what's going on, you know, we do our little bits. And right, Carole?
Yeah, you localize it. I just lost my train of thought because you said something and I thought, oh, you know, it was like playing ping pong. You triggered something in me. You said, well, okay, I'm just going to say yes.
Okay.
Until it comes back.
You know, the greatest thing that we can do for ourselves to help ourselves is to find the humor.
Yeah.
In simple situations, because
absolutely.
Look at this. We're both smiling. So it's like, it's 10-2. It's the Timex time.
Oh, you know what? Oh, I know what I was going to say when you're talking about control.
Yes.
So what we're going through right now is many of us have lost control of a large portion of our life. You know, for example, I've lost control over my career. I have certainly lost control in my household because my son and his fiance are leading into their 16th month living with me, waiting for their condo. So I've lost control of my house. And ever since Joe died, I've lived by the theory, when you lose control in one part of your life, you look around to seize control in another. And what I've done, Teresa, I live in what I call the South Wing. So I live in a very crowded bungalow here. It's our starter house from 1981. And I've relegated myself into my bedroom, which, you know, I have everything short of the beer fridge in there. But my way of seizing control is I vacuum that carpet 3 times a day. Like, because first of all, I'm going in there more often. And I would say to the kids, okay, when your father was alive, I probably didn't vacuum for 2 weeks. So I don't know what's going on. That's my way of seizing control.
Yeah, that's the one piece of real estate you do have control over. Right?
Yeah,
On
exactly.
your own. That's
And
hilarious.
you know what? Before I work out, so I work out in there as well. I have a little ritual that I go through. Well, I got to put my earrings on. I certainly have to get dressed, have to brush my teeth. Yeah, I have to vacuum because I don't want to be looking at any dust while I'm on the bike. It's crazy. So I mean, I'm looking forward to a lot of things. One being that their condo is soon ready.
Now, that's not the bike you had outside in your
No,
backyard, is it?
not far off though. It's 33 years old.
Oh my goodness. Listeners, if you ever get a chance, watch Carole's videos. She's
Oh,
doing some inspirational exercising out in her backyard in the spring and summer. It's absolutely hilarious, and I loved it.
ah.
I felt sorry for you. As a former cyclist, I felt sorry for you with the bike, honestly.
And you know, the chain was off. Oh, geez. And the thing is, the last part of that video with the Vic Tanny's belt, I had just checked it. It worked perfectly. But their dog, in the meantime, tripped the cord. It wasn't plugged in when I
Oh,
got on it. So you talk about the props not working. It was like, I want to get out the water.
and that was an important one.
Oh,
But you know what, Carole? I love absolutely how you approach life. And I think we all need to take a lesson from you and just, you know, do what makes us happy, do what makes our hearts sing, and bring out some enjoyment, laughter, and fun in our lives, because that's kind of what's missing. But that aspect will also counterbalance or counteractivate the negativity of what we're all living through at the moment. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
You know, the humor doesn't solve our problems,
no, doesn't
but
hurt it.
it does help us cope. And you know what, Teresa, I would like to propose, if you're up to it. I would like to share my other strategies at some point, but I know we're running out of time.
No, if you'd like to do it now, Carole, you go
But
for it.
I have a number of strategies that I've given the litmus test to, so it worked for me. And I think what's important is that I am open about me being in a slump, because to a lot of people, it's reassurance that, oh, good, I'm not alone. Like, I think maybe a lot of people have suffered and are suffering quietly.
Yes.
And it's easy now to just retreat into your shell because you don't have to see anybody. So by talking about it, hopefully it gives some hope and humor to people that, yeah, you know, I was down in September, or, oh, I was really bad in the spring. Because I find as I open up, people go, oh, Carole, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, Teresa, I have no clue what time it is now. What time is it?
We've got a few minutes left if you'd
Oh,
like to
do we?
finish.
Okay.
Yeah, go
But I
for it.
mean, if you wanted to there to be a part two, I would certainly be open to it.
I would love
And the other one that you spoke about earlier, I would be open to that as well. Because you know what, Teresa? I got sweet nothing to do.
but you're enjoying it.
You know what? We could do this every day. This would give me great pleasure.
Well, maybe that's a challenge we need to do.
Yeah, see how far we can go with it
Exactly. Exactly.
until you run out of ideas.
Exactly. Well, you know what, Carole, I really do like that idea. So do you have 2 tips that you can share with us today that can help someone get through? See, I'm starting to do like you with the hands. It must be that
Yeah.
Italian thing.
Well, absolutely, for certain, be mindful of the negativity that you are surrounding yourself with. The second one, I don't know whether you're following my ABC countdown to Christmas to boost our Christmas spirit.
No, I haven't, but I will.
That's what I'm doing right now on social media, and each day is a different letter and what I say about it. But what I'm striving for right now, for the sake of myself and others, is we got to bring our Christmas spirit back. because I watched a movie. I'm watching all sorts of Christmas movies, of course, including the Hallmark, where I could write the script.
Yeah,
Um, and in Christmas Chronicles, they say something like, we need to bring our Christmas spirit back, because it's only when we have it that people remember and recognize how good we can be, because it really brings the best out in us. And right now, more than ever, we have to work on that, because Christmas is uncertain to all of us. I have made a point. I've decorated outside, I've decorated inside, and I have no clue how Christmas will present itself. Whether I'll see my other two kids, uh, I don't know how it's going to go down. I'm certainly not going to see my siblings and my extended family. I won't be getting together with friends, as is suggested for all of us. So we can still bring the Christmas spirit back for ourselves. Drive around, look at the fabulous light displays. Like last night, I was in Niagara looking, it's beautiful. And to me, lights offer hope. And I think that may have been my post today on D for decorate. But when you drive around and you see lights, it offers a hopeful spirit to you.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do. We have to build ourselves up from the inside. All too many people think, it's got to come from out there, that, that people take a job and I certainly hope this job makes me happy. And I always think, well, you're applying for the wrong job. You got to go into the job happy and go, I hope I can stay happy in this job.
Yeah,
And maybe spread some of your happiness and magic with others and contribute to the happiness of the culture of where you work. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, for right now, those two things.
I think that's
Bring in more positivity and give your Christmas spirit a boost. If for no one else, you do it for yourself.
absolutely. Kicking the behind would be really good, because
Yeah,
Christmas is all about rebirth, about faith and belief and joy. We have that existing within us every day of the year.
absolutely.
Why do we only bring it out once a year?
Yeah.
It's, we need to spread it every day. So, Carole, thank you. We're going to do this again.
No, Teresa, thank you. I really enjoyed that. I needed that. I loved every minute of sitting here with 3 tiers of a photo box, an 8-inch dictionary, and a conga drum to elevate me so you're not looking at my turkey neck. I got the cord over, the dogs walking in and out, and
No.
I got clutter behind me, but I feel good.
You know what? You're in your element. It's
Yeah.
all great because you're smiling and you're making everyone else happy. And that's what Powering Through Life was all about, was to share
Yes.
stories of, what we've faced, how we've gone through it, and what we've done to come out the other side. And yes, that's what this is all about. So I thank you so much. Would you
Well,
like to leave us with a little, one of your special little stories, poems?
Well, not a story, but I should have prefaced this whole talk with this, that it's all relative. That my slump for me is someone else's slightly different calamity, disaster, or challenge. That I recognize that people are dealing with far more serious things in their lives. And in knowing that, and it took, when my husband died, the compassion factor increased. And one of the things that I learned in that time was it didn't matter who I was speaking with. If I was truly engaged and listening to them, the truth was that everybody's got crap. You're not the only one dealing with something. You're not the only one challenged. You're not the only one suffering. And if we could recognize that, we will become kinder, more compassionate, and more understanding of what other people are going through, because everybody's got their own story.
Exactly. And we all go through something different. And you know what? you may have that one little golden nugget that I need to hear that would change that around for me, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
the more we
Yeah.
share,
So
the
we
better off
we
we
have to
are.
share. We have to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a final note, as a way of increasing some Christmas spirit,
Thank you.
add some joy to your life. Teresa, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carole. And get in touch with Carole. How can we get in touch with you, my dear?
You could yell
Okay,
loud.
well,
I'll
yeah,
go on my porch.
that could work. But
You know what? If they just Google my name, a lot of different stuff will come up: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I make no apologies for any of the YouTube videos. They're under the category of no shame. I have no shame. Who cares, right? Who's paying attention? No, nobody. And I know now both my parents are looking down going, what were we thinking? She's perfectly fine not being normal. So they could find me a number of ways, Teresa, and I would welcome the opportunity to connect with them.
Absolutely. And I will,
Whoever them are.
yeah, awesome people that want to connect with you.
Yes.
So I will have all your links put onto the segment when
Okay.
when it goes up. And Carole, thank you. You are a blessing, and thank you for bringing humor into my life today. Yeah. Thank you. And connect with Carole, and we will see you again on Powering Through Life. That brings to a close another great, inspiring interview on Powering Through Life. Thank you to my incredible guest for sharing your thoughts and wisdoms with our listeners. If you would like to connect with us, go to www.teresasims.com. And there you will also find all the previous segments from many amazing and inspiring people. Remember, don't be shy. Reach out if you have any questions, or just leave me a comment. So thank you once again for listening to Powering Through Life.